Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we are diving into Django Rest Framework and we are talking about serializers. Now, if you're building APIs with Django Rest Framework, serializers are absolutely essential. They are like the bridge between your Django models and formats like JSON that your front end or third party apps can understand. Sounds cool, right? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use serializers to handle data like a pro. So let's jump right in. So, what exactly are serializers? Let me break it down for you. Serializers in Django Rest Framework act as translators for your data. On one hand, they take complex data types like Django model instances and convert them into easy to manage formats like JSON. On the other hand, they also validate and transform incoming JSON data back into Python objects. For example, let's say you have a book database. You can use serializers to convert your book objects into JSON for a front end app, or take JSON data from a user and create or update book records. Here's a quick visual before and after serialization. You can see the book before serialization, it's a model instance. And then after serialization, you can see it's a JSON. So that's what we want to achieve with serialization. So let's see how this can be done in code. I have my Django application here created. I'm assuming that you know the process of creating a Django project. If you don't, I have a video explaining that. You can just check among my videos. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a book model. So to do that, we first of all have we've imported models, and then we're going to create a class called book, and here it will be models dot model, and then inside here I want to have three things. Title will be models, will be a char field. It has to start with capital char field, and then the max length will be 100. Okay, and then I'll have author, which will also be a char field, so I can copy the same, paste it. This will be author, and then the max field will be 50. The last one will be published date. It will be models the date field, like that. Right. So that's the first step. But as with Django, for this to work, we need to first of all make a migration. So I'll do Python, and then we've made our migration. And then I'm going to learn python.py again and migrate. So now this has to reflect in our database. You see it says no migration. Okay, here it says no migrations to apply, but it was basically because I had an old SQL file here. So I think it already included that the first migration that we have here was already executed. So I've deleted that, and then I'm just going to learn again. So now we've made our first initial migrations. Once we've done that, I want us to go ahead and create a serializer. So for us to create a serializer, the first thing that we need to do is to import serializers here. And we want to create a book serializer. So we're going to define a class here called book serializer. And then inside here, it has to take in serializers dot serializer. And then for this first part, because I want to demonstrate this, I will do a manual serialization, and then um, we are going to use model serializers, and you're going to see the power of model serializers. But before we do that, let's stick to this. So I will to speed this up, let me just copy this and then bring them here. Okay, so from here you can see we have the same things. So inside here we have this char field max 10 and all this. Inside the serializers, for manual serializers, we also have the same things because we want to validate them before they even go into the database. So here we need to change. This has to be, instead of models, it has to be serializers. The same with the others here, like that. And once we've done that, let's go ahead and try this out. So what I'm going to do is to learn Python manage.qi shell. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to import the book model. So I'll say from API here dot models, or a simpler way, I'll just say from API import models. Book equals dot book, and then I will give it the following details. Right. So you can see it's book and model books. And then the title, we've given it the title, the author, but also the published date. Okay, once I've done that, to use the serializer now, what we need to do is say serializer equals, and then we are going to first of all we need to import the book serializer. So we're going to say from API import or let's just say another way of importing is to say API dot serializers import book serializer, and then we are going to say serializer with a small letter, and then we're going to say book serializer, and then we're going to pass in the book instance. All right, we're going to pass in the book instance. So we're going to say book. All right, to check it, let's just print serializer to data. Okay, now you can see that it was a model instance at first, because if we say book, this is a model instance. Now we have passed it into the serializer, and then we are getting JSON data. That's what we want to achieve with serialization. Now for deserialization, what I'm going to do is, assuming someone wants to add the following data into the database, we want to add it into the database, meaning that this JSON data has to be converted to a complex Django model instance. So how are we going to do that? And that process is called the serialization. So let's see how we can achieve that. So to achieve that, what we need to do is we are going to again introduce our serializer. So we're going to say serializer, and then it's book serializer. And then inside here, remember during serialization, we had to add the model instance. But during deserialization, we are going to add the data, the serialization data. And then we can add the model instance if we are trying to update, which I'm going to talk about in another video. But here, what we need to do is say data equal to JSON data, and that's it. to check this out, what we can do is check if the data is valid, because that's the purpose of a serializer. We want to check if the data is valid before going to the database. We have to learn a function called if the serializer now, and then the function is valid. This will give us a boolean result. When it is valid, it's going to give us a true. When it's not valid, it's going to give us false. So once you've checked that it is valid, we can now add the data into the database. So what I'm going to do is say if serializer is valid, then we can say book instance serializer dot save. And once we learn this save function, this is what is going to save it into the database. So I'm going to learn this, and let's see. Says it expected an indentation. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So yeah, it has to be book, or let me just say serializer. Now we can save to the data. So you can see here it says create must be implemented. Now we're going to go back to our book serializer. What we need to do here is now create a function called the create. This function has self here, a method, self, and then here we have validated data. So the validated data that comes in will show up here. Once we've done that, we can just say return. Okay, we can say we need to import here models from API dot models import book. Okay, and then here we can just say, okay, we can say book dot objects dot create, and then it will be validated data. Okay, and then we can just return what comes here. So like that. Unfortunately, I need to exit as well here, and then I'm just going to go back into the shell again. Let's see if we can reuse some of these. So from the book, import book serializer, and then we also need to import model. So serializer. Okay, so we have this, and then here that. So we have the serializer now. We want to have that, and then here we're going to say serializer dot save, which is going to learn the create function and save um, into our database. So cross our fingers, this should work. Okay, so now we have something in the database. But if you remember, I said that there is a simple way of doing this. Now, that is just using a model serializer. So quickly, let me just show you how you can do that, just to avoid all these things. So to achieve that, we're going to remove all this right here. The first thing that we need to do is to introduce another meta here, and then we need to provide two things. Number one, the model. In this case, it's called book. And then number two is fields. In this case, it's all. That means we want to serialize all the fields. All right. So that's all. That's all. We have created our model serializer, and this will work without even asking us to create the create function or giving us any errors. So to verify this, I'm going to save again. Here, let's exit again to test this, and then let's go back into the shell. Right. So book serializer, we need to import models as well. What's happening? Okay, models, and then yeah, we're just going to say then drf2. Okay, and then the serializer needs to come here. like that. And then let's check if the serializer is valid. If it's valid, we're just going to say serializer.save. And notice that if this work, we are not going to face any errors that say you need to implement the create function first. No, it will not give us that. Right. So another mistake that we've made here is that here we said serializer.serializer, but an important change that we need to do here is come here and say model serializer for this to work. Model serializer like that. So this will work. I'm sorry guys for that. I think let's just try it again to validate. I just do this quickly. Models, book serializer. Those are the steps, and you should take that in take the steps seriously. We have imported that, and then we are introducing our data, and then we after introducing the data, we want to serialize it. Using this, we have added the data, and then we can now check if it's valid. Okay, let's just say if serializer is valid, then let's say serializer.save. Okay, now that works. All right, so today we've covered what serializers are, how to create them manually, how to simplify things with model serializers, and how to serialize and deserialize data. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what you want to learn next.